Hello, I'm Mark Baer. You're watching YourTown Television. I'm with Jennifer Perlmutter, gallery owner, artist.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's really fun to be here.
So, where have you been and how did you get here now?
Okay. So for the past 10 years, I've been living in the East Bay of California, which is just east of San Francisco, Oakland, in a little town called Lafayette. Most recently living in Concord, but my business and career for the last 10 years has been in Lafayette, California, running a couple galleries. And so I've been a curator of exhibitions and programs, community partnerships, artist mentorships, representation of over 15 artists. This has been the last specifically 8 years when I opened my first brick and mortar in late 2013. So yeah, that's where I have been as a curator. And I'm a painter. I'm a painter over 27 years, but when I took on the curating and program and management of my gallery, I put myself a little bit on the side in terms of my painting practice, really focused on community.
With the gallery now, we're talking about the Perlmutter Gallery in Carmel, California.
Yeah, now I've moved to
Yes.
Carmel by the Sea. Opened a gallery there in 2020, and I moved to Monterey in February in 2022 with my family. So now we live just 3 miles north of the gallery, and life is much simpler now. And leaving my community in Lafayette in the East Bay and what I had grown there was a big shift in my career with a lot of thought, but it was the aligned right next step, really.
A gallery in Carmel can be both wonderful and fraught.
Yeah.
And how is the experience being? Because it's competitive. It's
Yeah, I'd like to go back to 2020. So the origin of the Carmel Gallery. Right? So here I am, it's in the middle of the pandemic. I have the gallery in Lafayette, which we're sort of off and on closed because it's, mid 2020. And I was interviewed around pop-up galleries. I'm very much a proponent for pop-up galleries, for artist self-representation. And so oftentimes people ask me, like, how do you do that? And what do you think about this? And so I was on this interview, and another artist heard me, and she reached out to me in August, Karen Folgner, and said, hey, Jennifer, would you be interested in coming to Carmel by the Sea to open a pop-up gallery? And I said, I don't know, maybe, why not, right? What do we got to lose? And so then I met up with her in Carmel. We looked at the space, got the lease, short term, and I never thought I'd end up in Carmel by the Sea running a gallery, because as an artist, I didn't see myself represented in any of those galleries. There was not a reflection of how I worked, how I wanted my work to evolve. And so it was this very contrarian action to do it, but I'm always taking risks, if anything. And it was softer when another artist says, let's do this together. And our work was very compatible, is very compatible. So we took it on, and it went really well, like extraordinarily well, where I couldn't keep up with, making all of a sudden my work was on the walls more than more than it was in Lafayette. And I was selling it, making a better living, and having these experiences with collectors in the gallery that I didn't have the benefit of in my other smaller suburban gallery. So I was really dedicated and became devoted to this space and invested in it. Took on the lease myself, and really started to look at my own art practice like I'd never had before. And that's, that was the opening, and that was the admitting after, by the time 21 wraps up, like, no, that is what I want to do. I want to return to that because I want to grow. And that's where the growth is, if I'm being honest. Scary as hell, very scary. But again, without that kind of component of pushing past your comfort, I'm not sure where I'd be as an artist.
Well, I felt the gallery is kind of unique to Carmel. There's a seriousness about it. There's an integrity about it. It's a real art gallery. It has an aesthetic, and it has a voice. And let's talk about that.
When I opened my first gallery, and I was wondering what to call it, so you could start back there, because if you're going to open a brick and mortar or even a website, your perspective is everything. Your story is what you're bringing forth. So I was advised to call it Jennifer Perlmutter Gallery. So what it had me always doing as a curator was realizing that this aesthetic, this presentation, is a reflection of myself. So as a curious person, as a person who was an excavator in her life, a digger of deeper truths, I have to show things that reflect that. And the aesthetic that you talk about, it's so interesting that you say it's serious, but is it serious? And we question that term and everything, because I think it has to be challenging.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, what does
word.
it mean?
Yeah.
And so it's the same in the studio. And you ask yourself before you know if the painting's done, is this bringing anything new into the world? Is this a reflection of where I'm at right now? And it can be really disappointing when you don't have the answer to that question. But in terms of the aesthetic, always I want an integrity, and always I want to challenge. But with that means that early on it was like, all right, if you're going to challenge, where's the education? Otherwise you will alienate, right? So challenge, but be open and generous with the story around the aesthetic. Yeah. So we're looking at this and we're showing this in relation to the one next to it, to the sculpture, to the other one, as a complete story. And we're going to tell you why that matters. And it's not complicated, but the programming in the gallery would always support would sort of open the doorway to further understanding what that aesthetic, further understanding me. And the aesthetic is elemental. I could always come back to that. Like sometimes an exhibit, an idea, the kind of artist that I would pull or say yes to would have this elemental sense to them. Earth, fire, water, air. Are these elements present in the work? Are they present in the story? And then you have the privilege of receiving, when people walk in, their feedback. And you start to see what parts of the story are easily read, what part needs a glossary, what part is maybe, something over here after, maybe this is the appetizer and this is the meal, and let's make it accessible. I don't want to alienate anybody, right? So how can we be challenging and take our work seriously? In other words, honor the creativity that comes out of us. How can we do that while having it accessible? Is a question I'll always ask.
Well, what I noticed is that, in a lot of galleries, there's 5 different artists on the wall.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily talking to each other. It's, you're in a gallery, they're selling 5 different things.
Yep.
And that's not untypical.
That's right.
But I noticed that everything is as if you lived at home and what you'd put on your own walls. That's the sense. It's not like what's for sale in the gallery. This is how I would live. This is the calmness or the intensity or the whatever it is that
That's
I
right.
would bring to my room.
That's right. It's a relationship.
Yeah, it's strong and it's nourishing, and it's something that you could sit in and contemplate in every day. Pictures are magic. Let's talk about painting and magic and your love.
Yeah.
Because first of all, if you're not in love with this,
Yeah.
it's something else.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an attraction for sure. I'll always have a little bit of paint on me, and I forget about that until somebody will mention it. There's an attraction. It's like a love. And when you leave the studio, it pulls, and every day it pulls. And when you're not with your love, you have a sense of grief around that, and remorse, and it's a love. And it's a process, and it's not always pleasant. It comes, just like with any relationship, with complications and journeys that sometimes feel out of alignment. But I will always go back to see what happens, right?
Yeah.
Let's get to the next part of the story. It's here. I know it is. I'm going to tune in. What is it trying to tell me? What is it trying to show me? Where is the stuck part? Because there's always a stuck part somewhere. Sometimes you're feeling like really in the flow. It's awesome. But
And that's not a true measure either.
No.
You can feel good or bad. It doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with the work.
Exactly.
And it's over time. Where's it going?
Where is it going?
What's this doing?
Yeah.
Am I mad?
Yeah.
Is this mad? It's a whole drama in your head.
It really is. And this, I don't know if other painters have this, but I find my paintings can sometimes be in like 3 or 4 different buckets. I see that this painting I'm developing right now looks like it's going to be in the texture of time bucket. Oh, texture of time. Okay, that's where we're at. That's not something that's always been with me, but in my progressed career,
the conversation gets deeper.
The conversation's deeper,
Yeah.
the buckets are deeper, and now all of a sudden I'm in texture of time. And then I'm like with a whole new set of time travelers that are showing me things as I excavate on the canvas, literally putting on, taking off, putting on, taking off until I have this uncovering. It's the result of what I've uncovered internally.
And how primal it is.
It's so primal. And then you have this thing. You didn't set out to make it, this thing. You stayed in the process,
Yes.
and while you were in that process of discovery, this thing was
Stuff showed
created.
up. It's conjuring.
It's it.
It's just...
And so then this is the result.
Yeah.
And then you're like, what am I going to do with all these results?
yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
And you have to ask yourself, who cares? Who cares?
So let's segue from that, who cares, to what I believe is the importance of being able to step away from that to being a good business, running a gallery. Because the art, however we can dismiss ourselves, you have to honor the work. Let's talk about team building and some of the things that are so important about this.
The part of that you say about honoring the work is really every artist can bring it back to that. Are you going to put it under your bed? Are you going to put it in the closet? Are you going to dismiss it in your garage? That will only bring up all kinds of grief. And then you get to look at that, and then you get to ask yourself, what are you honoring exactly? And you can always bring it back easily to how will you honor yourself in this life? And then if you can, look, not every artist is good at marketing, social media, administrative.
But somebody is.
But somebody is.
Yes.
And, my career has every single year I've invested. And I began this back in the late 90s. And when I started investing was really about 2013. That's when I really started. And every single year it's grown. And to the level that I invest, it grows even more. So by that I mean investing in website development, social media management, photography, videography, storefronts, salespeople, commissions, all these things. You can't do it alone. Even self-growth. I invest in my own work that I do on myself, which allows me to, in every facet of my business, be more in alignment, even in accounting, right? Working consciously around money, and really looking at the things that sometimes we'd much rather put under and leave under the carpet.
You've got to be good at the full circle.
And if you're not,
somebody is.
Somebody is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a hard lesson.
Yeah.
I want to talk about mentorship, because that's also something that you've taken on.
Yeah. I feel like at this point in my career, helping artists that are coming up is really enjoyable, number one. And if it doesn't have joy with it at this point in my life, I don't have time. I don't have the energy. There has to be reciprocity. I mean, I'm not bringing it all. You got to bring it with you, okay? And so at this point, I won't accept depletion. I won't accept exhaustion. So what I'm noticing is sharing ideas with artists that are coming up is energizing. And being around artists that are at that journey, like where I was 20 years ago, is really, really cool and fun and full of joy.
And what we said about it, it's not all about them. We get out of it.
We do.
Yeah, it's not like we're so giving back, which you are in its way, but you need the fresh.
Yes, the fresh is awesome.
Yeah, so I don't want to give virtues. I mean, they are virtues, but let's not.
Yeah.
It's also important.
It has to be.
Yeah.
I think we know by now that it is about us.
Yes.
How do we keep clear that perspective and authenticity and aesthetic? Better be clear in here. And if I'm giving to the extent there's nothing left, what's there to show?
Yeah. Then there's nothing to give.
There's nothing to give.
Let's talk about your work now and your work practice.
Yeah. So now that I've moved to Monterey and given myself, oh my gosh, so much more time, it's my painting, I'm able to paint more hours during the week. Does that mean I have been? Actually, no. But I have been doing other work that's contributing to a more juicy hour that I spend. So, and that other work is always just going deeper into my own personal growth and recovery, and from all the years of giving from an empty pot, right? So, but painting in the studio now means either a couple things: painting in my converted garage at home, which is fine, albeit small, or painting at the gallery in downtown Carmel, either in the actual gallery or in the downstairs space. So there's all these places, and I'm looking at that right now only since a couple months that I've been doing this. So I'm recognizing that the place I'm painting in is impacting in a way that I've not noticed really clearly before. So again, I'm excavating and working on surface, and I'm really in the texture of time. What can I say? Collage material is really my inspiration point. And I'm digging. That's what I'm doing on the surface. And that's what I'm doing deeply.
And you want to see what happens next.
And I want to see what happens next.
I'm with Jennifer Perlmutter, the Perlmutter Gallery, between 5th and 6th on Delores.
That's right.
Come see the work.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're watching YourTown. We're out of here.